Welcome back, Boston Celtics fans, to another incredibly deep dive into the absolute most fascinating tactical debates surrounding our beloved basketball franchise as we dissect absolutely every single angle of this highly stressful playoff run. We are entirely skipping all the long-winded introductions today and getting straight into the absolute most polarizing topic currently tearing the entire passionate fan base completely apart, following our frustrating Game 2 performance on our home floor. No matter exactly where you actively look for your daily Boston Celtics basketball content right now, whether you are scrolling through Twitter or reading long threads on Reddit, you are almost certainly seeing highly upset fans complaining loudly. Absolutely everyone seems to be aggressively criticizing head coach Joe Mazzulla for his highly controversial decision to relentlessly play a specific defensive scheme known as drop defense against the Philadelphia 76ers throughout the entire game. If you are completely unfamiliar with the deep tactical terminology of professional basketball, drop defense is a highly specific pick-and-roll coverage scheme utilized by coaches to completely protect the painted area and the rim. In this particular defensive alignment, whichever big man is currently guarding the offensive screener deliberately backs far off away from the perimeter line and intentionally sinks deep down into the paint to protect the basket. The primary goal is to completely prevent easy layups and force the opposing ball handler to settle for contested mid-range jump shots, rather than aggressively hedging up on the ball handler at the perimeter. The Boston Celtics clearly ran with that exact conservative defensive strategy a massive amount of the time in their incredibly ugly Game 2 loss to the highly aggressive Philadelphia 76ers on Tuesday night. Now, as a normal spectator sitting at home and watching this specific defensive coverage repeatedly unfold on your television screen, it simply looks incredibly terrible because it appears like the opposing team has completely cracked the ultimate code. It creates the awful visual optic that Philadelphia is just easily creating completely wide-open looks from the three-point line every single time they casually walk the basketball up the court and initiate a play. The opposing big man simply sets a very solid physical screen. The fast ball handler efficiently uses it to create separation, and then that guard easily steps completely into a totally unguarded three-point jump shot. That highly frustrating sequence is definitely sort of the basic story of what happened on Tuesday night, but it is absolutely not the entire complete tactical picture when you truly dig deep into the advanced analytics. According to the official tracking data, the Philadelphia roster took 27 total open or completely wide open three-point shot attempts during the entire length of Game 2 at the legendary TD Garden. The National Basketball Association explicitly defines an open shot as a specific scenario where the absolute closest primary defender is standing 4 or more feet completely away from the shooter at the exact moment of release. The incredibly painful reality of that specific basketball game is that the 76ers somehow magically drilled 18 of those completely wide-open looks, burying the Boston defense under an absolute avalanche of perimeter scoring. But we absolutely have to look at the massive statistical context of the entire 82-game regular season to truly understand exactly why Joe Mazzulla deeply trusts this specific defensive philosophy so much. Throughout the entire regular season, the Philadelphia 76ers mathematically shot roughly 33 of those exact same wide-open perimeter looks per single game, which is actually a significantly higher volume of attempts. However, despite shooting that incredibly high volume of wide-open shots during the regular season, they historically only managed to successfully average just 11 total makes per game from that completely uncontested distance. This means that even with the Boston Celtics purposefully utilizing a highly conservative defensive coverage that effectively and intentionally concedes those open looks, they actually successfully allowed fewer clean shot attempts than Philadelphia usually averages. The Boston defense successfully held Philadelphia to fewer total wide-open attempts than their established 82-game baseline, which technically means the overall defensive scheme was actually working entirely as fundamentally designed by the coaches. The massive, unavoidable problem was simply that 7 more shots than the 76ers' established season average somehow miraculously found the absolute bottom of the net during this one highly specific, isolated playoff basketball game. When an opposing professional basketball team mathematically connects on 7 completely unexpected three-point jump shots, that equates to 21 massive sudden points that can absolutely heavily swing the entire final outcome of a game. It is an incredible statistical anomaly that completely defies all logical tracking data. And it is absolutely crucial to deeply remember that the Boston Celtics stuck with the exact same defensive scheme that worked flawlessly previously. Just 2 short days prior to this massive disaster, the Boston Celtics executed this exact same defensive strategy and completely dominated the game because the statistical variance naturally landed completely in their absolute favor. Boston deliberately conceded many of the exact same physical advantages and open looks in Game 1, but the 76ers just sort of entirely refused to aggressively take advantage of the space provided to them. We saw lightning-fast point guard Tyrese Maxey, who ultimately finished Game 2 with 29 points and made 2 absolute dagger 3-point shots in the fourth quarter, look completely hesitant during the previous matchup. During the Game 1 victory, Maxey basically did not even look at the rim when coming directly off of those exact same physical screens on Sunday afternoon, entirely failing to punish the Boston big men. The comprehensive statistical data shows that Philadelphia only fired up 7 total pull-up, 3-point attempts in all of Game 1, successfully making just 2 of them, which is a terrible 28%. But then the script completely violently flipped on Tuesday night, when Philadelphia confidently shot 18 total pull-up 3-pointers and successfully made 8 of them, completely skyrocketing their efficiency to over 44%. To put that massive jump into proper perspective, during the massive sample size of the entire 82-game regular season, the 76ers were actually the 6th worst pull-up shooting team in the league. They shot a highly inefficient 31% on these highly specific pull-up attempts for an entire year, before magically turning into the greatest shooting team on earth for exactly 1 isolated playoff night. Absolutely all of this massive statistical context is to definitively say that the brilliant coaching staff chose to passionately play the drop coverage strictly because they wholeheartedly trust the historical mathematics and the massive sample data. As incredibly frustrating and incredibly visually annoying as it can be for a passionate fan to watch when the strategy does not perfectly work out, that specific mathematical approach actually works the vast majority of the time. When that highly proven scheme simply does not work out, because opposing role players are miraculously hitting highly contested pull-up jump shots well above their career averages, it is largely completely out of the defense control. Right here in the absolute middle of this massive deep dive into the tactical genius and statistical reality of Boston Celtics basketball, please take a quick second right now to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Your continuous daily support is exactly what directly allows us to keep analyzing the game film and bringing you the absolute most detailed professional basketball analysis available anywhere on the entire internet. So please hit that subscribe button. Getting right back into the incredibly fascinating mind of our head coach Joe Mazzulla, directly addressed the massive public outrage regarding the defensive strategy during his highly anticipated post-game press conference. Mazzulla brilliantly stated that complaining strictly about the defensive scheme is honestly just reaching for the low-hanging fruit when analyzing how the 76ers magically accumulated 19 makes from beyond the 3-point arc. He firmly stated that true accountability absolutely starts entirely with fixing the incredibly basic fundamental stuff that the team can actually directly control through pure effort rather than blaming a highly proven mathematical system. The head coach specifically pointed out completely unacceptable things like lazily allowing multiple massive offensive rebounds directly off of missed free throws, which gives the opposing team incredibly easy second-chance scoring opportunities. He also heavily criticized the defense for completely incorrectly conceding the absolute wrong types of 3-point shots entirely, such as the incredibly easy catch-and-shoot opportunities that Philadelphia guard Quentin Grimes happily received. Mazzulla views giving up an uncontested catch-and-shoot look to a completely stationary perimeter shooter as a massive controllable factor that indicates a pure lack of defensive rotation effort rather than a structural scheme failure. And honestly, the entire defensive narrative completely overshadows the absolute glaring fact that the entire situation was made infinitely worse by the brutal reality that the Boston Celtics offense was completely ice-cold in their own right. Another completely massive controllable factor contributing heavily to the brutal playoff loss was the completely stagnant, entirely uninspired execution of the Boston half-court offense throughout the vast majority of the second half. Mazzulla profoundly added that one of the absolute best and most effective ways you have to defend an incredibly hot shooting team is by completely matching their output with highly efficient offensive execution of your own. The coach noted that he actually thought the offensive system generated some truly great open looks for his highly paid shooters, but he frustratingly acknowledged that the entire roster simply missed absolutely all of them. He emphasized the simple basketball truth that you absolutely have to be able to efficiently score the basketball in highly stressful close games against a resilient playoff team, and on Tuesday night, the opponent simply made more shots. When you look entirely objectively at the raw shooting statistics of the game, the head coach is absolutely entirely right in his highly critical assessment of the overall offensive performance from his incredibly talented roster. It is absolutely always going to be incredibly difficult and nearly entirely impossible to win highly competitive professional basketball games on nights where your entire team collectively shoots severely below 40% from the field. That abysmal offensive execution completely ruins any chance of victory, completely regardless of what defensive scheme you are running or exactly what the opposing team is miraculously doing on the other side of the floor. Never mind trying to win an incredibly important playoff game on a night exactly like Tuesday, when the visiting 76ers somehow magically put up highly elite 48% and 49% shooting splits. When the opponent is mathematically shooting completely out of their minds and heavily exceeding their established statistical averages, you absolutely must have a fully functional offense to keep pace and prevent a massive blowout. A massive amount of the specific shots that the Boston Celtics entirely missed were honestly highly efficient shot profiles that the coaching staff and the analytics department were absolutely completely happy and thrilled to confidently take. Sure, there were absolutely some highly frustrating, totally stagnant offensive possessions, heavily featuring isolation basketball in the crucial second half, exactly when the game got incredibly tight and the overall physical pressure heavily escalated. But there were also a massive amount of completely clean, beautifully generated open looks from beyond the perimeter that simply tragically ricocheted harshly off the cold iron of the rim, refusing to go inside the basket. The usually highly reliable and incredibly deadly supporting cast completely vanished when it mattered absolute most, leaving the superstar duo entirely stranded without any reliable perimeter spacing or secondary scoring relief to alleviate the pressure. The normally elite shooting trio of Derrick White and Sam Hauser and Payton Pritchard completely collapsed under the pressure, shooting a highly combined and incredibly tragic 4 of 20 from behind the three-point arc. When three of your absolute best and most mathematically reliable floor spacers completely forget how to successfully shoot the basketball, it becomes entirely impossible to keep any sort of positive momentum flowing throughout the building. Furthermore, absolutely no single Boston Celtics player, not specifically named Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, even successfully managed to crack double digits in the final scoring column by the time the final buzzer mercifully sounded. This massive lack of overall offensive production from the highly touted supporting cast completely highlights exactly why blaming the drop coverage defensive scheme is incredibly short-sighted and entirely misses the much larger foundational issue at hand. If your entire deep bench entirely fails to provide any meaningful offensive support and your perimeter shooters completely go ice cold at home, you simply are not going to win professional playoff games against hungry teams. This incredibly ugly Game 2 performance in just about absolutely every single measurable way physically possible was simply completely not the Boston Celtics night, and it was a perfect storm of statistical variance and poor execution. The highly proven drop coverage defense absolutely heavily hurt them because the opponent got incredibly hot, but it absolutely did not fundamentally define the true identity of this elite team or permanently ruin their championship aspirations. The true ultimate test of this incredible coaching staff and this highly talented roster will be exactly how they aggressively respond to this statistical anomaly and adjust their overall offensive focus heading into the next battle.